Moving on, I had to double check that this game wasn't kicking at 10 p.m. Eastern, but we have a Boise State at Washington. Washington, a 14.5 point favorite with an over-under of 58.5. Kicks at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. I believe that's why they're doing the early, quote-unquote, West Coast kick there. I do want to lead with some significant injuries for both teams. These are absolutely impactful. For Boise, their lead wide receiver, Latrell Caples, is out for the whole season. He's done. They lost him in the preseason. On the other side, Washington, their starting running back or projected starting running back, Cameron Davis, had 13 touchdowns last year, as well as starting wide receiver Giles Jackson. They're both out for the season as well. So there are some pretty heavy hitters on both sides, or on both sidelines, I should say, that are not going to be playing this game or at all this year. Boise State does return Taylon Green, who I'm super, super jazzed about. I'm absolutely on this guy's bandwagon. I think he's just electric. He was terrific as a redshirt freshman last year. So when he came in, and they changed over from Hank Bachmeier to Green, and they did change out the offensive coordinator as well, Boise State went from scoring 22 points a game to 32.5 points per game. It was not insignificant. You also see George Halani in the backfield. He's a beast, 1,000-yard rusher, multiple 1,000-yard rusher. Washington, though, was marginally better versus the run than the pass, but when I say marginally, I mean 94th in EPA against the run versus 126th in EPA against the pass. So I'm not talking about some heavy-hitting numbers here. I think it's a scheme thing because there is talent in the front seven. Braylon Trice is a bona fide NFL prospect. I think that they have dudes up front, but yeah, just schematically, just didn't work out. Teams were able to run and pass the ball in Washington last year. Boise State was number 2 in pass EPA on defense last year, but they do lose a couple of big guys in the secondary. J.L. Skinner goes to the NFL. Caleb Biggers also goes to the NFL. My question is, do they have a dude to defend Rome Odunze? Probably not. Now, do they have 2 dudes to defend Odunze and Jalen McMillan? Probably not. I think the Broncos are outgunned versus the pass. I'm not really sure there's much they can do about that.
Yeah, Brett, we just talked about my number one game of the early window. This is my number one game in the afternoon window. I like this game. I have Washington minus 12. It's an 80% win expectancy. Washington, for me, power rated power rated 17, and they're one of the 4 main contenders in the Pac-12 this year in a race that I'm really excited about. Boise State, the favorite in the Mountain West by my numbers, power rated number 49. It's a pretty close matchup when we have the number 50 Washington defense and the number 61 Boise State offense. But again, I like to identify, where's this difference? The difference for me is Washington's number 7 offense. I mean, they're going to be really good. Michael Penix Jr., he's getting some Heisman love even. What is he able to do? Caleb DeBoer continuing to build, and within that scheme, it's a number 7 projected offense. Boise State's defense is number 36 projected right now. Plus, this game is in Seattle. Worth mentioning, Boise State gets UCF at home next week in an old-school BCS Buster matchup that I can't wait for. That'll be fun to talk about, too. But this is Washington. I don't think the Broncos will be overlooking them. This is the Chris Peterson Bowl. I'm excited. They truly can't afford to look ahead if they want any chance to win. I don't think they will. But bottom line, Washington minus 12 at home by my numbers is an 80% win expectancy for the Huskies.
Yeah, and Boise State doesn't have to travel very far to Seattle. It's not some crazy trek to get there. They're pretty regionally close. But Husky Stadium, that is a very difficult place to play. That is a very tough environment. It is going to be very full and energized. It's early enough, to mention that it's early, but it's not so early in the day that fans aren't going to show up. It's on national television. And Boise State, big name program coming in there to play. I think you're going to see a ton of support there. A very packed stadium. That's a very, very difficult environment to play in that I don't think Taylon Green has played in before in his entire playing career. If you're talking about the total here, I'd probably wait to see if a number less than 58 shows up. One did flash at FanDuel. When I say flash, I mean flashed. I would probably bet over that if we can get a 58.
Yeah, and just final note on this before we move on, Brett, you were mentioning, Husky Stadium. It's one of my favorite venues in college football. You got the Bay right out there, but also the thing that I think I like the most is, man, when they get that siren going, when they're trying to get the fans pumped up and excited, that's one of the more I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And I'm not a Washington fan. I'm not a fan of any Pac-12 team, but when I'm watching that, I've never been to a game there. That'd be fun. When I'm watching that on TV, you can't help but get amped up and excited, and you just know, like, this is a big moment. They got the siren rolling. Let's go. I love that. And they're going to be ready for Boise State. It's a regional rivalry, like you said. The Chris Peterson, there's not bad blood. I mean, he went from Boise State to Washington, but Boise State doesn't love that. So this is definitely, there's a lot packed into this game, and I'm looking forward to it for sure.